so I make assemblages of found objects and natural materials. I use a lot of stitching. I seem to have a trend of making wearable art. So as part of the Mechatwarel project, I made a dress out of slate. So I drilled it was all slate from the slate tips around, well, all the quarries that we visited, in fact. And I drilled holes in it and stitched it to straps of fabric and wove those fabric together to make a sort of grid dress.
Wow.
And another exploration was me questioning what home means. What does it feel like? What does it mean to be at home? This was before Mechatwarel, actually. And I made towers, each with like either ideas of home or homes that I had lived in, so flats I'd been in, or is home just a comfy chair, like in the song? Is home, some sort of sanctuary? And those were made out of wet green bamboo, so they kind of warped as they dried, which was quite interesting. They were towers varying between sort of 6 and 4 foot high, with very, very long legs, because they were all sort of looking like they were going somewhere, and these tiny things on the top, and the things were gridded wire, fabric, small things that I'd found.
That's fantastic.
I don't know if that answers your question.
Absolutely, yeah. I suppose the follow-up question to that would be, where do you find a good source of inspiration for your work, or for being creative generally?
Well, it's me just trying to live my life, really. I come up with questions and stumbling blocks, and I'm sort of quite what if, or I wonder if, what happens if I do that? I like touching things. I like picking things up. I like, wrapping things up, and just, so I'm inspired by my relationship to the things and people and places around me. But more recently, I've been driven by the burning question that's driving everyone, which is more about what can we do to make the world a better place in face of the sort of overwhelming horrors that seem to be coming at us from every angle. So I do feel like I'm making less things and doing much more socially engaged practice these days, trying to seeing if art can be a vehicle to gather community to tackle some of the bigger things, or even the small things that become bigger. In the way the world is at the moment.
So like a think globally, act locally sort of principle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So thinking more about where the materials come from, but also more about, what am I doing with my time? Is there how can I use the freedom that I talked about earlier of being an artist, where you can kind of get away with doing anything in order to participate in the world in a more active way, and trying to make it a better place.
Yeah.
I think art is kind of lucky. It seems to have less restrictions. There'll be organizations set up to tackle this, that, or the other, but they're all answerable to this, that, or the other as well. And so it's very hard to be free of politics or capitalism or these things in most fields. Whereas I think as artists, we can kind of wriggle through the cracks a bit and set up community groups, but call it an art project.
Yeah.
Plant gardens, again, call it an installation, things like that.
Yeah. It's nice just talking to people in public. Sometimes you don't realize how much of an impact a good conversation can have, where you truly listen to someone and try to find a good compromise between your strongly held beliefs and their expressed opinions and beliefs. I find that sometimes can be years after the fact that you can hear what that did to their life and their direction, I suppose, and it can be profoundly beneficial and positive. So I wouldn't ever underestimate that, I suppose, and that's a really good means to try to improve things generally in your environment and in other people's.